Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And it's been a really long time since we recorded an episode. So how the heck have you been?
I am alive.
Good.
And mostly well. Since we've spoken, I have done a lot of music-related things, show-related things. I went and saw Moulin Rouge finally last week, which is one of my faves. So that was stellar. I've been wanting to see it since it premiered in Boston before it even came to Broadway.
Right.
I finally got to see it, and it was excellent. The girl who played Tatinos is just like amazing. And then I watched the Tonys, and my crew won Best New Musical.
They did.
So excited about that. For the most part, I was fine with the Tonys. I mean,
actually, you know what I didn't realize, because I don't know, like I don't put things together. I went to college with, and I'm kind of friends with, the hair designer for Strange Loop.
Oh, who is it?
Joya.
What do they look like?
She is very, very pale and kind of looks like a 50s pinup star.
I bet I've met her. I've met like that whole cast and crew. But they're excellent. So that was very fun. I was supposed to go to Tony's party, but work has been crazy at the bar because every day I go in, I'm training someone new.
Oh, good.
And we're just running in circles around people who are not doing their job. So Sunday, I was like, I can't physically go anywhere. And so I just watched the 20s from my couch. And, it was kind of a bummer, but it was, it was nice to watch the 20s. I enjoyed it. So those are my show-related things, I guess, for now.
I think the last time we recorded an episode, I was still super depressed and just like pretending to smile. So there's that. I am now no longer that.
Excellent.
Like, still emo girl, always going to be sad, but like, it happens. My event for the American Cancer Society was last weekend, and it went incredibly well. It went so well. We raised a lot of money. I got to hold a baby kangaroo.
All that, yes.
And then my kiddos had their play on Monday, and they did fantastically.
This is the Willy Wonka one?
No, Willy Wonka was in March. This was the Romeo and Juliet Star Wars one.
Yes.
Yes, I spent I was like, what did I do Sunday instead of watching the Tonys? And I spent the entire day spray painting milk jugs to look like stormtrooper masks and making patches for the kids, because somehow I thought, you can't craft, make all the costumes.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of tracks, no, that has nothing. I literally could not think of a single segue in that moment.
You know what our spiritual AF?
Oh, yes. Sure. That the lack of segue is the segue. What is our spiritual thing of the day?
It's very like deep. Be the person you needed to be when you were a kid.
I hate that. Not because I actually hate it, but because it is absolutely why I am the teacher I am, is because I am the person I needed when I was in middle school. And stop. Everything is attacking my feelings. Everything attacks my feelings lately.
To help with that.
What also attacked my feelings was this episode of Stargate.
It did.
So,
I will say watching this episode made me realize how lack of feeling I am this week, because of how tired I am. Because I know I should have had more feelings watching it. And
well, I will say yes, but also I think the big difference in my feelings about the episode and your feelings about the episode probably lie in that huge gap of how much I want to be a parent and how much you don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like that has huge amounts of how to deal with where those emotions of this episode landed.
Speaking of parents, this comes out on Father's Day.
It does come out on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Padre.
Happy Father's Day. I thought you were about to sing a song and I was ready.
Oh, that. Sometimes I think my voice just is Marilyn Monroe singing Happy Birthday, Mr. President, but like just all of the time. But then I remember that my voice in my head is so much lower than my voice around, like what it actually sounds like. Yes. It's kind of upsetting how much sexier I sound in my own head.
Just because you love yourself.
No, it's not that. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with my voice. Like, some people are like, I hate listening to myself. And I don't feel that way at all. I just kind of wish I sounded as raspy, like sex goddessy as I do in my own head.
I think if you added more drugs to your life,
I'd get there.
I think you could get there. Yeah. All dreams are possible with
crack cocaine.
Ooh. Raspy your voice.
All dreams are possible with crack cocaine. This is not an endorsement.
Not an endorsement.
No. So this week.
That'll be a wild one.
Oh man, I'm having an energy drink at 7:00 on a Friday, and my computer is being really rude about my battery, and because of that, it's making my like screen laggy, and I hate everything. But this week we watched season 1, episode 14 of Stargate SG-1. It was called Singularity, and it was only rated 7.5 stars. And I kind of agree with that, because as much as I had feelings about the episode, and there was a few important things for the overall arc, it was kind of a throwaway episode.
It was a little more disjointed, is the right word, than it needed to be for something that was supposed to keep you like intertwined in the storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I said that somewhere in my notes, but
it did come out on October 31st, 1997. So happy Halloween. The number 1 song was still Candle in the Wind 1997 by Elton John. And the number 1 movie was still I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I wish it be.
The only thing that I could find that happened on that day, other than, of course, it being Halloween, and that year I was 5, so I think when I was 5, I dressed up. What did I dress as for Halloween? I think 5 might have been Tigger.
So I was 4. I think that may have been my Dalmatian year.
I think I was.
When did Dalmatians come out?
Like in the 70s?
No,
the live action one. I don't know.
Or maybe the second one. I don't know. I feel like there was one that came out in the 90s. Was like, this is now my favorite movie.
Oh, maybe.
I do that sometimes. But yes, I think that was the year I was a Dalmatian.
I think I was either like Belle, because I think it was a lot of times I was Belle as a kid, or I think I might have been like Tigger or another like random Disney character.
Yeah. What was your favorite costume you've ever been? Childlike.
When I was a sophomore in high school, I dressed up as Bellatrix Lestrange. And I had my aunt actually draw the dark mark on my arm because she's an art teacher, and like I like made my own like fingerless gloves.
Oh.
When I was a freshman in high school, I was Catwoman, and I made my own mask and gloves for that. And when I was 12, I was Nancy Drew, and it was the first time I ever dyed my hair red.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah. So like those are the three that stand out.
Well, you are a much cooler child than me. The one, like, I remember like two of my favorite costumes that I had one year when my sister was like 2 or 3, so I had to be like 12 or 13. I dressed up as Britney Spears. So I had like one of those like fake hair pokey outies.
Fantastic.
And all the glitter and sparkles. And then one year I dressed up as an M&M. And I thought that was the coolest.
I did a lot of like Halloween characters where I was like book characters where I was just wearing my own regular clothes and like added one or two things to it, and like nobody knew who I was, but I didn't care because I was like, it's because I'm smarter than you.
I dressed up as Hermione Granger for a book project one time in junior high, and I was sick the day before, and so no one told me that the day got moved. And
so you just dressed up as Hermione Granger on a regular day of school.
On a regular day of school. And then they were like, well, that's tomorrow. And I was like, okay, well, I was sick yesterday. Would have been nice to know. So then I just wore the exact same thing and crimped my hair 2 days in a row.
Fantastic. In middle school, I once we had a fictional character day, and I was currently reading the actual book Wicked. And so I painted my skin green, and I had swim that day, and I refused to go in the pool. And my swim teacher was like, you have to go in anyway. And I go, yeah, no, fuck off.
I will melt.
I literally told him to fuck off because I was a terrible person in middle school. But also I painted my skin green. I was not about to get in your nasty pool and make it nastier with my green paint.
Yes. I am so sorry. I will be dragging you off the rails all day today. So
that's fine. Rails are just a suggestion.
Sure.
But other than it being Halloween of the year I was 5, the only thing that I could find that happened on this day in history was the sentencing of Louise Woodward, which was a case that I had never heard of. But apparently it was a very heavily media, like, frenzied case. But I was like, clearly wasn't watching a lot of court TV when I was 5. Which I started young, but not that young. But Louise Woodward was a 19-year-old au pair from England who came to America and murdered the little boy that she was the au pair for.
I studied this in law school.
Yeah, it was
psychological, what is it? Forensic psychology class.
Oh, yeah. Well, her sentencing was that day.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Love it.
So the director of this episode was Mario Azzopardi, and the writer was Robert C. Cooper. So we got our main guys. Our guest star is kind of funny, actually, because her name is Katie Stewart, and she plays Cassandra. And she's more known for stunts than she is for other acting. And it was really weird because in this episode, which again, 1997 was 25 years ago. So she was a small child. She was born in 1985. So she was 12 when this episode came out. But she has been on our podcast before because she played the army girl who died in the final episode of Dead Like Me.
Full circle.
Yeah, which of course came out 7 years later. So she was 19. So like I didn't even. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Full
circle moment. So, but then once I knew that, I was like, oh no, like she grew up, but her face did not change. She
does have a familiar face, and I was like, I must have seen her in something when she was an adult, but I like just
yeah. So we start with the team heading off to see a black hole. They're very excited about this black hole, and Jack is just like casually schooling them on astronomy terms, and Daniel's straight baffled by Jack's knowledge. And Sam goes, you don't think he has that telescope on his roof to stare at his neighbors? And Jack goes, well, not initially. And I was like, nope, that tracks. That checks out. Exactly.
But also, if I had a telescope on a rooftop, I would absolutely stare on other people. Like,
For sure.
I would have no self-control. I'd need to know. I don't care what they're doing.
Like, I stalk people on social media in a way that is like unhealthy and insane. And I like zoom in to people's houses on the Snapchat map to try to figure out if I know where people are actually. If I had a telescope, done. It would be the end for someone.
Yes.
So they get to the planet, and there's this the way this was shot was so weird because they're like zoomed in on a road sign that like showed that this place was already like a base for Stargate, and it was like SG7's base. But when it zoomed in on the road sign, it said the Douglas MacLean Memorial Highway. So because I am the way I am, I paused the episode and then deep dive spiraled into who Douglas MacLean was.
Excellent.
He's the art director of the show.
I love it. I love when shows and movies do that.
Now, if I had just read the IMDb trivia before I watched the episode, I would have known that because that is one of the trivia pieces. But like a lot of the times the trivia is spoilery, so I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Douglas MacLean. Well, in the first 3 seasons, he was only an assistant art director, but then he took over starting in season 4 as the head art director for the show.
Nice.
So
I love that.
Fun facts. No one's there to meet them, and they are confused until they find a dead body.
Yes.
Just chilling on the ground. And they're like, well, this is weird. Wonder what happened. So they go to search the base, and they find that the SG7 team also entirely dead.
This felt very reminiscent of, I don't know if you've ever played, there's a game called Man of Medan, and it's based off of a true story of a ship that they think is like a ghost ship because people hallucinate every time they're on it, and like people have died on there. And I'm not sure if they ever decided what it was, but they like thought maybe there was a rampant disease outbreak, and then they were like, oh, maybe it was like a in the air, whatever, like a what am I trying to say? Like mold or something, something like that. And so that's what this made me think of. And I was like, what kind of thing are we getting into now?
I have not played that game, so I don't know.
It's very fun,
but then they bring a whole hazmat like unit to this planet, which was confusing at first. I thought the hazmat people were different. And then that they were back on the Earth, and then they were back on the planet, and I was very confused. And it took me quite a while to realize that the whole medical staff was on this other planet, because they never send the med staff to another planet. But this was already SG7 occupied, so it already had a Stargate base there. So it made sense that the med team was able to go there. I was very confused for a minute. But that's what you were saying about at the beginning about it being shot weird.
Yeah.
So the hazmat team is sweeping the planet while Dr. Fraser examines the whole team. And Jack has to get examined first because he's the one who actually touched the dead body. Mm-hmm. And right as they go to examine Jack, Daniel sneezes. And this was a letdown.
Yes.
Because at that moment, I paused the episode because my mom was like, oh yeah, I'm sure it is just allergies. And I paused it and I go, but Mom, Daniel does definitely actually have allergy problems. And she goes, yeah, but like that was lazy writing. Like, of course, he just sneezed because he's sick, and then that's going to be how the episode goes. And I was like, I hope not. Because Daniel gets fucked every week.
That is true.
It goes, somebody's going to get kidnapped, it's going to be Daniel. Somebody's going to get sick, it's going to be Daniel. Somebody's going to get separated, it's going to be Daniel. Somebody's going to lose somebody that they love, it's going to be Daniel. Like, Daniel gets screwed every single week. And I was so ready for Daniel to get screwed again. And then he wasn't. So it was just a weird thing to throw in.
So I agree. I thought it was a very strange choice because I would have liked for him to have been the red herring, kind of like he was, but I would have also liked if someone else came up from behind and got sick or whatever, you know?
Right. Like the red herring was misplaced because it wasn't like a red herring and then somebody else was actually sick and Daniel was just sneezing. It was like Daniel was just sneezing because Daniel sneezes and like moving on, we never talk about it again.
Right. And I was like, that isn't quite
Yeah.
how I would have handled that.
Yeah. So then the team has to go tag all the dead bodies. And they're out tagging the dead bodies when a hand just reaches out and takes the tag. Which is weird since everyone is dead.
Right. That's not what you want to see.
So they're like, Teal'c, you're the only one who has a face at the moment that is not a giant hazmat suit. You go talk to the obviously child-sized hand that just took the tag.
It also felt a lot like there's a lot of things about this show in particular I've noticed that kind of models a lot of shows that came before it. And it feels very much like The Stand, like the original one from Stephen King's The TV series. I don't know if you ever saw it.
I did not.
It felt very reminiscent of the way that like the lighting was and the way like how the people were even placed.
Well, and it's also hard because the show is so old that sometimes I don't know if I'm seeing patterns that existed then or patterns that exist because of this.
Yeah. I think The Stand came out in the late 80s. It could have been early 90s, but like
Right.
the original, I think it's come out like 5 times since then, but like the original came out before it. So
yeah, so weird. And then Teal'c goes to talk to this little girl. We find out it's a little girl. And they take her back to the base because, you know, she's still alive and doesn't appear to be sick at all. And Dr. Fraser is examining her, and Sam's like being Sam and trying to talk to her and be motherly and get her to calm her down and everything. And she like takes the body tag and won't let go of it. She's like creepily holding on to it.
it's so sad.
Not creepy, but like not creepy in the way that she's creepy, but like creepy in the way that like the fact that that's all she has to hold on to is like eerie feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they do the examination. She has no sign of infection at all, but she does have some weird stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird stuff that's going on is that she has an element in her blood that exists in the metal of the Stargate.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time we ever hear this word, as far as I remember, because I have not had it written down in my notes anywhere. And they just mention it as if we already knew this.
Was this the Inequita?
Yeah, Naquita.
Naquita.
So it's Naquita, Naquadah, Naquita.
Okay.
Which
I was like, should I know what this is? Like,
it sounds very much like a Native American word. Like it sounds like all of the tribal lands in New York. I don't know where the name came from in the terms of the show. They casually mentioned it as if we definitely already knew this word. We definitely did not. But it's good to know because it is, in fact, the weird metal that the Stargate is made out of, and it will be mentioned many times again.
Excellent.
So apparently she has Naquita in her blood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why she's still alive.
Yeah.
So they decide, because she's fine and she's got this Naquita in her blood, they're going to go back to Earth, and she's obviously going to come with them. Mm-hmm. And Sam's like, listen, like I get it, but also the whole point of building this base was to be able to photograph this black hole. If everybody is dead and we leave, what was the point?
Right.
And I was like, thank God somebody finally was like, remember, we're fucking scientists.
Did you know that about us? This is the whole point of us being here.
Yeah. They're like, let's explore planets to find out information and learn about science and culture and do all these things. But also we just show up and try to get shot at and then run away every single week. So they're like, yeah, no, you're not wrong. Like, let's stay. And then the little girl comes out and grabs Sam by the arm. And they're like, except for not you. You got to go back to Earth because this child only likes you.
I feel like this is a off the cuff statement, and I may not feel this way in 5+ episodes, but this is also kind of my final notes. But one of the things I think this show does well is kind of alternating enough between characters that we feel like they're all main characters, like
Yes.
they're supposed to be. I don't feel like one stands out more than the other. I mean, I felt like Richard Dean Anderson in the end, I mean, in the beginning, but it's only because I knew who he was. Like, it wasn't because of
Mhm.
something the show did. And now that we're what, 14 episodes in, I don't feel
Yeah.
that anymore.
Yeah.
But every episode that has had Sam as kind of like the lead has been about her almost like motherly bonding with someone, because she had that very first episode in the beginning where she was with a child. And I'm like, she's the only woman, and I get it. But I think because of how the characters are, I will not feel that way eventually, because I do think, like, I mean, in the movie it was different. Jack bonded with the kid, like, so like there
Yeah.
are ones, but I'm
Well,
ready to see.
well, and they've explored the Jack's feelings about his dead son, and they've talked about that, and they have had Sam stuff where Sam was just like female empowerment, feminist, like
I
not
guess
about
that's true.
having kids. But I think Sam's character is really interesting, and one of the things that, because the show is so long
Mhm.
and you have so much time with these characters, you get to really like learn who they are. And I think that the show does a really good job of like making it clear who the characters are internally, even from an early time. And Sam is very much the person who's like, I am military, I
Mhm.
am a scientist, I believe in XYZ, this is life, this is facts. But
Mhm.
because she was engaged, she talks about the Bible,
Well, I always
she wants to have kids, like there's this, she wants to be appreciated for being a woman, not just her brain. And like
right.
there's this like, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love Sam so much as a character, is because she is like, I am me, I don't need a man, I can do whatever I want, I can be better than a man. But at the end of the day, do I love so deeply as a woman? Yes.
Yes.
And I think the fact that 14 episodes in, we already fully know and understand that about Sam is so cool. So they decide to stay, except for not Sam, because she has to go take care of the kid. And Teal'c's like, okay, well, like obviously I'm gonna stay because I don't need hazmat suits. The Goa'uld is gonna protect me from everything. I'm cool. And Jack's like, I'm not gonna leave a member of my team on this planet by themselves, so I'm gonna stay too. So Sam and Daniel get to take the girl back to base, which is usually not to judge, but that kind of makes sense. You keep the muscle on the other planet and send the science back to be learning about what's going on.
Like, if you think about it, like, you could have left Sam with one of them and she would have probably been fine, because she does have the military base. But Daniel, like, doesn't have the know-how of the strength that you need. Like,
No, it's funny because like you kind of always need Jack and Sam to be on separate sides if they split up, because they're the only two with military.
right.
And depending on where they're going, the person that's with them changes, because if they're doing something scientific and like experimenting and studying, Daniel should be with Sam. But if Sam's going somewhere where she's going to need to fight, not that she's not capable, but you should put Teal'c with her so that she has body with her.
Right, because I mean, the same way with Jack, it's not, it's not because she's Sam. It's not because it's just, two fighters are better than one fighter and one scientist when it comes to like.
Right. Whereas if because Jack is capable enough that he doesn't necessarily like that he is the fighter on that side.
Yeah.
So he can do things with Daniel, but there are times when you don't really need a scientist, you just need the bodies. And also there are times when Teal'c isn't capable of being without Jack, because he just, like, not to say that he, like, because he's not dumb. he's obviously incredibly smart. He's just like not human.
Right. And in this particular instance, I mean, they were going back to study what was going on with this girl. So like Sam has to be there because she's attached to her, but you also need Daniel because you need him there. Like,
right. And like Teal'c is staying because Teal'c is the least vulnerable in terms of his immune system. Mm-hmm. But to be fair, we find out later, Teal'c doesn't even know what a black hole is. So like Teal'c being there without help, probably not going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely out of the question.
And you can't just leave Teal'c and Daniel, even though Daniel is the smartest in terms of science, because A, we found out that in terms of astronomy, Jack does actually know more than Daniel. And B, because Daniel doesn't know how to be in the military either.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, he made that very clear when he was talking about, he was telling Sam something, and he was like, oh, she says, I'm not supposed to get attached. And he's like, who says that? And she's like, I'm military. That's like.
Yeah, like she's like, sometimes I forgot.
Yeah.
So they take the girl back to Earth, and she's super scared and super overwhelmed. And so Sam just like stays with her and plays house. And Dr. Fraser and Daniel report to General Hammond that they think that the girl will be able to help them fight like other infections, and that they will be able to use whatever this weird thing in her blood is to maybe like learn how to do other kinds of immune system stuff, which of course will then be useful to Teal'c not having a gold in his stomach. Like, right. we do recommend. But then the big question that still remains is, why did SG7 not say anything? And Daniel says, no one knows. Which is the big mystery of the episode, but it is not played off as well as it should be. Like, that should be so much more important than it is, especially when we find out what is going on. I feel like the thing that is the secondary storyline, like the B line, should be the A line, and the A line should be the B line. And just in terms of the overall season arc, as a single episode, it's fine. But I feel like we keep making these B plot lines the A plot lines, and like forgetting that this is not just like a random standalone thing.
Right. And I feel like the reason like this is probably a choice that way is because it is the first season. They do want people to come back, so they have to bring out more of the emotional storyline and less of the world building that's still necessary. The thing is, though, like, that's what we want to know. Like, don't get me wrong, I think the Cassandra storyline was fine. It was, emotional, whatever. But like, I'm here because I want to know what's going on with Stargate. I want to know what's going on with SG7. Mm-hmm. And I think that they were concerned. I mean, just like we've talked about before, sci-fi doesn't get enough recognition. And I think they were like, if we're all sci-fi and no emotion, no drama, it's going to fall by the wayside. Yeah. And which is probably true.
And it's funny. So, because I have the DVD box sets of the show, and the show is old enough that when it first came out, it was one of those big, giant 5-disc boxes. Mm-hmm. And the way that the boxes are designed is that it is like a Stargate goes across the 5 boxes, and then there's a little picture on the bottom of each DVD. And the season 1 and they all have 5 discs. So the season 1 has 5 faces on it. And the 5 faces are Jack, Sam, Daniel and Teal'c, and Apophis. And I was like, why? And my mom goes, you're only halfway through the season. I go, yeah, but halfway through the season, I can't give Apophis that credit. And she was like, well, the threat of him is the big bad in the first half of the season. Yeah. And I was like, and I get that, but this is where Courtney's frustrated, is because the threat of him is no longer enough to sustain it.
Yes. And I am much more connected to the character of Janet. Is that her name? Janet or Janet?
Yeah. Janet.
I'm much more connected to her as a character in this storyline than I am to Apophis.
Yeah, because, I mean, and in season 1, they didn't even know if she was going to be, like, a main character. Mm-hmm. And it's just, like, and I get, we're only on episode 14. There are 23 episodes. So we're, like, really only just halfway through.
But we're a little over halfway. Like
A little over, but also in 23 episode seasons, and the way that they did seasons back then, the big bulk of the good stories are going to be like episode 17, 18, 19, 20. Like that's where you're going to get like the huge drop.
the first half is making sure the audience is hooked into watching a drama on TV.
Yeah.
And I get it.
But
I don't always agree, but I get it.
yeah. So then we get some more information. Well, we see a video. We see into the video that they were watching. Like it zooms into the video and goes into the room that Sam is in. And the only reason I have a note about this is my note literally says she eats hot dogs and draws sad pictures. Oh, she eats hot dogs weird and draws sad pictures. Because, like, Sam's trying to feed her a hot dog, and she's like, this is how you put mustard on the hot dog. And she's just eating it like a popsicle with no bun and drawing a picture of everyone dead. And I was like, if this was a horror show and not a sci-fi show, this would be incredibly concerning.
Yes.
Then we flip back to Jack and Teal'c on the other planet because Teal'c does not understand what a black hole is, and Jack does the absolute worst job at explaining it I have ever heard. And Teal'c says, oh, yeah, okay. Like, Teal'c's like, yeah, I get it now. He doesn't.
That's not.
Not even a little bit. Mm-hmm. Then we go back to Earth. Where Sam is trying to like leave the room and like switch shifts with Daniel, and the little girl freaks out and finally starts talking.
Yeah.
We find out her name is Cassandra, and she really, 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 really does not want Sam to leave her.
Yes. Which, like, fair. At this point, I would also be terrified.
Right.
This gray room that looks like a jail cell.
And because she finally is talking, she tells Sam that her heart hurts or her chest hurts. And so they take her back to the med bay, and we find out that her potassium levels have dropped like crazy rapidly, like in a way that does not make sense, which is causing her to have arrhythmia. And then her heart just like stops. And this scene,
I was like, who is this surgeon? And what is he doing? Because he's
this wasn't even that scene yet. This was when they first, like when Dr. Fraser was like, give me the paddles, and they like freaked out.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And this scene, a couple things. It went on way too long for a show that is not a medical show.
Yes. I was like, this feels very much like Grey's Anatomy. But like,
weirdly accurately took her shirt off and then did a great job of not showing it in a way that showed that she had no shirt on. I was like strangely intrigued by the camera angles they used, but then also was like, but why? Because none of this is necessary.
No.
For the plot.
Oh, no. I was going to say, like, camera angle wise, they're very particular about children.
No, absolutely. No. No, sorry. The
but
why was not a complaint about what they did. The but why was, why did they spend that much time and effort on a scene that didn't matter?
Yes.
Then
and I feel like, I want to say, moments like this is what took me out of the emotional part of the scene.
Which is fair.
It was such, like, the lighting was so dark in this episode because it was so like intense and sad, and it wanted to keep driving, but then they would have these like 5 to 8 minute stretches of like things that didn't matter, and it's like, okay, I'm taken out of the episode now. I don't care as much as 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then once her heart gets started up again after they use the defibrillator, Dr. Fraser's listening to her heart, and she's like, that's a sound that a heart doesn't make. So she was like, we need a chest x-ray stat. And we find out that there's something inside her that was literally not there 10 hours ago. Which was
where I felt like I got revealed, because in the beginning I was like, was she made from the Stargate? Which opened up a whole lot of questions for me in my head that I will leave for a later time. But I thought that's where it was going to go at first, and that's why she survived. But then it turns out it was something put in her.
Right, but like this was the thing that like the first time that it felt really like sci-fi of the episode, because like, how did something get inside her that wasn't there 10 hours ago when Sam hasn't left her side for that entire 10 hours? Like, dun, dun, dun. Like, that's the first time I felt like there was like a tangible mystery, because the death thing at the beginning before the credits was a tangible mystery. And then they were like, no one knows why SG7 didn't check in. But they keep going like, big mystery question, a bunch of stuff that is unrelated. Big mystery question, a bunch of like, it was a weirdly structured episode.
I agree.
So then this is when Sam cries about how she wasn't supposed to get attached and Daniel doesn't know how to be in the military. Then we go back and Jack and Teal'c are finally taking some photos of the black hole, and then that scene is unnecessary because it is short and a waste of my time.
It is unnecessary, but I have a comment about it still.
Okay.
The music they used in this scene was a very weird choice. And I wanted to look up who the composer was because I meant to and then I didn't, obviously.
Yeah.
But the music sounded like it was in one of the like big scenes from Harry Potter. Like
oh yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. It was weird. It was a weird music choice.
It's a weird choice here. And I was like, I think that it was supposed to make me feel more nervous, but they didn't choose it sounded like they were trying to use a horror soundtrack, but they chose the wrong one and it wasn't horror and it wasn't sci-fi. It was this weird fantasy soundtrack that didn't do it, but confused me.
So then we go back to the actual A plot of the episode and find out that whatever thing that is inside of her is like collecting different metals or microorganisms in her body. And it's like this weird circle that on one side it's pulling all the naquita and on one side it's pulling all of the potassium.
Like a magnet.
Yeah. And fun fact, if those microparticles of potassium and naquita ever touch, nuclear reaction.
Not terrifying at all.
No. Then we go back to the actual A plot of the episode that is not treated like the A plot of the episode. And Jack and Teal'c see something in the black hole pictures that doesn't make sense, because how can you see something in a black hole?
Correct.
And it turns out it is the Goa'uld attack ship. It is the Goa'uld attack ship of a Goa'uld named Nirti. And spoiler alert, that's not really, I mean, spoiler alert only in the sense that it talks about something that hasn't happened yet. Teal'c keeps calling Nirti he. Nirti will be in the show, but Nirti is not a man. So I don't know why in this, I think they hadn't decided yet what they were going to do with Nirti. And so Teal'c's like, when he came to this planet this one time, Nirti's a female Goa'uld leader. So here's that.
Well, also, and I mean, it's 1997. The default pronoun was he for.
Yeah.
I mean.
But Nirti is not even a masculine name in terms of Egyptian words.
Okay, well, that's not. Yes, that also makes sense. But I just did not know that.
So then we go back to Earth, and this is where we have some weird flashing back, and I probably won't talk about the Teal'c and Jack part of it for a minute, just because like it just flashes to them like trying to escape,
right,
and getting shot at.
Very anticlimactic.
Oh, actually, but so that's where we learn about Nirti. Nirti is an enemy of Apophis, and in the past has tried to trick other Goa'uld and steal like stargates and stuff. So then we go back. We find out that according to this weird surgeon who tried to remove the thing in the weird surgeon that you hate, who was really rude and did not care about this girl's heart rate at all. We find out that the thing in her chest will detonate in exactly 1 hour and 52 minutes. And Sam is having a breakdown. And they're like, all right, well, there's only one option. We have to send her back through the Stargate and get her out of here so she does not destroy the whole base. But Jack and Teal'c are at the same time trying to get back to Earth because, go old attack ship. And this is one of my favorite moments because I love when this happens. They're trying to encode the gate to go back to the planet, and it always takes so much longer in Stargate base to fire up a gate. They have to sit there and computer encode every chevron, and then and they're only at chevron 3, and Teal'c's just boom, boom, boom. Okay, we're going. And so Jack and Teal'c bust through the gate. General Hammond's like, close the iris, somebody's coming in. And with the guy who I can never remember his name, but he's in every episode as the guy who sits at the computer encoding chevrons, is no need. It's SG1.
These are our people. It's okay.
Yeah. So they find out from Teal'c's information after Teal'c and Jack come back that they can't send her back through the gate because she slips into a coma as soon as she's in the same room as the Stargate. Questionable. And then Teal'c basically says that what would happen with that device that's inside of her is that as soon as she crossed into the Stargate, that's what would cause her to explode, and she would destroy the Stargate. And they would not have it anymore. So they're like, well, what do we do? We can't let her just detonate inside the base and destroy everything. Can't send her back into a different abandoned planet. Here, let's just take her to an abandoned nuclear facility because we just have one of those 20 minutes away. And Sam insists once they get there, they have to take her down 30 stories underground so that she explodes in a way that doesn't hurt anybody else. And Sam is like, no, I'm going to be the one to take her down there. My child, that is not my child. Sam gets in the elevator. She's all sad. And then Cassandra wakes up. Mm-hmm. So Sam takes her to the bottom, and then she starts to leave. And then she's like, LOL, JK, I'm not leaving. I don't care if I die. And Jack's like, Colonel Carter, what the fuck are you doing? And then he's like, well, she's going to die. I'm going to have to stay here because she's on my team. But she's like, Daniel, Teal'c, you guys leave. And they were like, are you done?
Yeah.
So everybody stays. We have this really intense, long, montage of the clock counting down. And then, in words that I can only steal from Atlantis, because every time I watch the show, it reminds me of Atlantis, The Lost Empires. Where was the big kaboom?
I will say, this kind of scene, it's kind of how this whole episode went. I was really expecting you to tell me it was a different director this week because
it was so weird.
It was so different than anything else we've seen from them.
So, yeah. So there was no big kaboom. Mm-hmm. Sam is like, motherly instincts. I just knew everything's going to be okay. Everybody lives. And there's this weird happily ever after ending where they're in a park and everybody's having feelings. And Jack brings her a dog, which, trivia fact about the dog, is a Shiba Inu. Mm-hmm. Which was a very, very, very expensive and uncommon dog in the 90s. That was not a thing.
It's still an expensive dog.
It is still an expensive dog, but because it's become popular, it's easier to get in America. It was not a thing in 1997. They worked real hard to find that dog. And Teal'c is like, well, Sam is her mom. And Sam's like, yes, but no, I can't really take care of her. We're going to find her another family. They have this really cute family bonding moment. And then the episode ends.
But
And
they
it's
also
really,
said Dr. Fraser will place her, and she said, and I won't be surprised if she keeps her. And I was like,
yes,
she's
that's
like,
true. And I really only had one major issue with the way this episode ended because I thought it was cute and I kind of liked that it was like a happy family ending and not like a weird, angry ending. But my problem, and this is going to be so niche and so petty,
mm-hmm.
but when they told this girl that she had to not say that she was from a different planet, they said that she had to come from Toronto. That's how she said it. Now, here's where I get upset.
Mm-hmm.
No one who is from Toronto pronounces the second T. No one, zero people. In fact, the number of people who have only believed that I'm basically Canadian because I say Toronto, and not Toronto, is like literally no one pronounces the second T if you are from Southern Ontario. It's not a thing that is going to happen. So when she was like, I'm from a place called Toronto, I go, no one's going to believe you.
Well, I put as a final note, I said, sure, make her be from Canada because people don't question Canada unless you're Mary Kate.
No one's going to believe you if you pronounce the second T in Toronto.
No one knows except people from Canada. And she's not telling people from Canada.
The show was filmed in Vancouver and everyone on the show is Canadian. And that's why it made me mad that a bunch of Canadians couldn't get this girl to say Toronto correctly.
Look.
In fact, season 1 was produced by CTV. It was a Canadian show.
Yeah.
And they couldn't say Toronto. I told you it was a niche, petty reason to be angry at the end of the episode, but that's where I'm at.
Very valid. Very valid. It is niche and petty, but also valid. So that is okay.
And that's where the episode ends, in a weird place where we got some really, here's the thing. We got some amazing information.
Yes.
Apophis has an enemy. There are multiple Goa'uld tribes. There are these things that Nerti is doing to try to destroy Stargates. We learned about Naquadah. We have all of this cool Goa'uld information. We learned that there are things that could be used with Naquadah to fix immune system stuff. But the episode ended at a park with a swing and a family joke about Toronto. Like, I just...
And also, the way the information was presented, I didn't catch all of it. And, like, I get that I'm a distractible person, so maybe it was me. But, like, I picked up probably on half of the important things. And that's a lot for how much was in this episode.
Right.
Not like there were two things and I got one and not the other. Like,
No.
it was a good amount.
So I don't disagree with this being rated low.
And I think the rating depends on, I mean, the rating is heavily based on the fact that it's an episode in a series. Because if you took this episode and made it its own episode of not a show or whatever, like it was very separate, I think it would have had a little bit of a higher rating because some people do care. But in this, like the line of Stargate, I agree, it should have been lowered.
Yeah, it was. So, who do you want to punch?
That stupid surgeon. I am distraught with him. It really bothered me.
Can I punch Nerti for fucking with a kid?
Yes, absolutely. You can always punch any Goa'uld you would ever like to punch.
That's true. I will punch her, even though her was a him in this episode.
Yes. Nice.
Who is your MVP?
I mean, it's Sam. She protected this small child.
That's fair.
Didn't leave her when she thought that it was going to be the end for her because she didn't want her to die alone. So she woke up. I mean,
Obviously, Sam is up there. But in order to just not pick the same one that you did, I'm going to give it to Jack for being a secret softie who buys kids dogs and lies to them to make them feel like they understand Earth.
Yes. As an attorney, I would like to produce a bill to Congress that states that every child should have a dog. But I need a caveat that they have someone who helps them take care of it.
Right. But also, like, I never had a dog as a kid because my brother and my parents were allergic. So, like, it wouldn't have been okay.
Get you a hairless dog.
Ew. I'd rather die. I'm sorry. No,
No, the rag doll. Get you a rag doll. Those are allergy friendly.
I
They're not called rag doll. The cat's a rag doll. There's a rag doll looking dog that is allergy friendly.
listen. I want a husky, a lab. I want a dog that is a dog. I want a dog that you can tell that he used to be a wolf. Like, I don't want a dog that you think used to be a cat.
Go hang out with Rachel or Caitlin. Caitlin has a lab. Rachel has a
I love Caitlin's dog.
you just go hang out with them and you'll
I
be
love her.
okay.
Yeah. No, but dogs that more closely resemble cats than wolves, not a fan.
I 100% agree with that. I am allergic to cats, so I will be having dogs forever. I like a good medium size because I can't get too much bigger than Sadie in a New York City apartment. But I
Correct.
will say I would probably go smaller just because I live in the city and it's
Listen,
easier.
I want 10 kids and 6 dogs, and like I wish
Any of that.
I wish that he wasn't such an asshole misogynist, because Gaston's dream of a wife who cooks for him and has 10 sons and 15 dogs and just has a farm of, that is something I would not hate.
Right. It also did not hate that person.
Correct. Like, I'd have to enjoy the person that. Also, I don't want to birth all 10 of my children. Like, let's be very, very clear. I want 10 kids. I want at least half of them to be adopted.
At least, yes. In lieu of my final thoughts, I would like to ask some generic questions.
Sure. I will answer as many as I can without ruining the future of the show.
So there's not a lot.
Okay.
The first one is, do we know how many alien species there are overall in Stargate? Is it the 7 or 6 or whatever we saw that had the group together in Thor? Or is it like an infinite amount?
We do not have an answer.
Gotcha.
As of this moment in the show, they've met the Goa'uld, they've met
The Nox.
and they know that the Asgardians have some kind of alien thing going on. We do not know any more than that at this moment. Obviously, they saw the 4 tribes in that room, but they don't know what's going on.
Gotcha. And can people or living things be created from the Stargate? How I thought this was with Cassandra.
No.
Okay.
I mean, the Stargate, it is an organic, like,
right,
material, like raw. It's basically like creating something out of iron, or it is a metal that has properties, but like it doesn't like have magic. It can't just spring life out of it. Yeah.
It's just a very, very generic question I had. I was curious.
No. Yeah, no, I was like, I have, and the first question, I obviously have more answer than I can give you. The second question, I can just tell you no, that's not a thing.
Well, for the first question, is the answer they are infinite or not infinite? Like, is there a specified number that we will find out throughout the time, or is it just the possibility of all these?
There's possibility. So we will obviously find out about different species.
Right.
We know of 3 different species at this moment. We may or may not find out about more. We may or may not find out more in depth about the species that we do know. But you have to remember, this show then also had 3 spin-offs. So it's not like there's a set universe that like only these number of things exist. Oh yeah, no. Because
that's okay. You don't have to answer.
No, yes. I was going to explain something that we don't know yet. So no.
Yeah.
But no, there is not a like definitive number of species that exist.
Excellent.
Um,
Stargate knowledge.
yeah. Trivia, like I said, I gave a lot of it away already. We have our fact that the Shinuibu are not likely to have been pick up at a pet store. Or
Sorry,
Shibu Inu, I said it wrong.
I know, but I thought you said Shuni Bui for
We have
something.
the Shunibui.
And I was like, what?
The Shunibui. No, we know that those dogs were not pick up at the pet store kind of animals at that time. Um, the worst part, this is the cover story Toronto thing. Amanda Tapping is from Toronto. So this is a weird military trivia. When O'Neill told the team to go MOP 4, which was MOP stand at the beginning, like after he found the dead body, MOP stands for Military Operational Protective Procedure. The team actually only went into MOP 1
Okay.
because protective masks and gloves is what they put on at that time, but MOP 4 would consist of protective mask, gloves, a full suit, and boots.
Well, they did go into that
After the rest of the, but initially when he said MOP 4, they just put on the helmet and the gloves, which is not MOP 4.
Right. Gotcha.
The Douglas McKean, near to being a he, the Shiba Inu, and then the DVD order. Yep, okay. So MOP 4 and Amanda Tapping fucking up the word Toronto. Those are our only real trivia.
Love it.
If you also hate the way people say the town you grew up in, please share that information with us on social media. What?
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Oh, yeah.
That is how they say Wash shall perish, which is where I grew up.
Oh.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to state my grievance, but yes.
No, yeah, that's fair. That's so fair. I hated that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I live in a place where so many things are just Native American words that I know how to pronounce, and then I realized that if someone who has never heard them saw them and tried to say them, they would fuck it up.
That's because we have Cajun French, so
yeah,
the same.
But if you have those feelings, or you live in a place with a really weird word that you want to try to get me to pronounce, and as I'm being a judgmental prick, send it to us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens, or email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me at CECloud13.
We will see you. Happy Father's Day. Happy Sci-Fi Sunday Father's Day. We will see you all on Thursday for Thriller Thursday. Bye.